Alrighty, and welcome back to Let's Get At It. Today is episode 7, January 22nd, 2026. I'm here with former founder of CarGadge, former co-founder of Maze Outlet, the Jewish Allen Iverson, a scratch golfer, if I may, a stock trader, and a crypto believer. I'm here with my best friend and co-founder, Alec Stern.
Let's go, Drew.
Let's get at it, shall we?
Let's get at it.
All right, so I know a lot of these answers for what I'm about to ask Alec, but you guys might not. And so it's going to be very easy for me to facilitate these questions just because I kind of understand where Alec's going to go, especially with the final question of who the GOAT is. But that's neither here nor there.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. First, I'm going to ask you a question I ask everybody, and that is our icebreaker. And that is, if I were to give you $50,000, how would you 20x that? How would you make that 50K into 1 million? How are you doing it? Who are you doing it with? And where are you doing it?
So, as a fan of the Aditt podcast, I had a feeling this question was coming. So I've definitely given it a little bit of thought, but it's a difficult question. I'd say the hardest part of the question is the time frame, is the 60 days. I would definitely do it with you, obviously. But the 50K investment, how to use the 50K investment would really depend on what the goal is. So let's break it down. So if we had to make $1 million and work backwards, that could be 1,000 people purchasing something for $1,000, or maybe 2,000 people purchasing for 500, or 5,000 people purchasing for 200. So I kind of like the last 5,000 people purchasing $200 of something. So what can we provide in 60 days that someone would purchase for $200? Now, 60 days is enough time to build something. All great things built take time, but maybe there's something like in our network, like maybe hosting an event or a online like stream session or something where you're leveraging the people that you know and putting them in an arena, and then people can come and listen. Like we went to that Aspire event and they probably had 3,000, 4,000 people there, and it probably costs like $100 to $1,000 to attend. So they probably made $1 million in that day, but they had to rent a whole convention center. So maybe if there was like a digital way to do it, I kind of feel like that'd be the only way to do it in 60 days. And then you could use that 50K towards marketing if you're able to do something like a stream, or use 50K to like host an event. But I think that's really, for the 60 days, it's got to be like an event or an online like workshop to really get enough people to purchase it in that window. But outside of 60 days, use that 50K to build something.
Yeah, that's good. You look at it in a very logical manner, a very numerical way. No one's come on here and they break it down where it's 1,000 for 1,000, or 200 people, or $200 for 5,000 people, which goes to show that it's just math at the end of the day. It's just making one sale, but being able to scale that one sale.
Definitely.
I think it's interesting to be able to look at a business venture of having a speaker series or something like that, because it probably did cost a little bit more, hosting these speakers, paying them, having that all out. Like, you want to do something for 1,000 people to buy something for $1,000. Why not a luxury product, an e-commerce product in that sense?
Something luxury. I think you have to leverage your network in that short of a time period. I think the fastest thing you're going to be able to do is get people in a place. And the hardest thing is making that marketable. So maybe it's even like, let's say you took someone who already has a following, that already has 5,000 people who could purchase, and you pay them to like come and host this event with you, and you agree to some revenue share where you're like, I'm going to take the 50K. I'm going to put together the whole event. You're going to show up and you're going to market it to your followers, and then we're going to get those followers there. Like,
that's a better way to leverage somebody's network.
Yeah. Because if they have 100,000 followers, then chances are you could probably get 5,000 of them to do something. Now, pay 200, I don't know. People might not want to pay, but I guess that's the risk of the business. But I feel like that's probably the best chance.
I like that. I like how you went more realistic. It's not like one person to buy something for $1 million.
Look, you could do that too. Maybe, let's see, how can you I don't know if you can do that with 50K though.
You'll figure it out. Great answer, Alec. But I'm going to ask you the question that is the burning question of the podcast. This is something that drives everybody. This is what makes you tick. This is what separates you from the rest. Because growth does not occur in a day. It doesn't occur in a week. It occurs over a lifespan. And that requires consistency, but consistency in doing the right things and attacking the day and getting at it. How do you get at it?
It's a great question. Great tagline there. Getting at it. But
You're
let's
biased.
see, on the day-to-day, there's certain habits that I do. There's certain things where I show up and approach work and get things done. But I would say what really gets me going, and it's gotten me going my whole life, and it was a realization I had a few years ago, was I love just picking up challenges that I thought were cool and that I wanted to do. I learned how to like yo-yo, dubstep dance, card tricks, magic tricks. Like I literally would see it online. I'd be like, I want to try that. Like that looks cool. You know, I look at a lot of this business stuff. It's like a puzzle. Like, oh, how do we, figure out this accounting stuff? How do we do our bookkeeping? How do we develop the product? How do we market? How do we cold outreach? How do we start a podcast? Like every part of it is just this puzzle, and I love just going deep into the puzzle and trying to connect all the pieces. I'll spend a good chunk of my day like in my head and brainstorming with ChatGPT, and I'll literally just beat it down with questions until I get this full understanding that I comprehend. And I feel like that attention to detail and then retention of the detail is what I love to do. I love to gain that knowledge.
You attack the days and pursue knowledge.
Yeah,
And you believe that the more challenging something can be, the more gratifying overcoming that will become.
definitely, definitely. When we had our Stripe challenge about a month ago, won't go into too much detail on the challenge, but it was a technical one. We aren't technical, and we had to figure out a lot of stuff with our security and our back end and our front end and servers and all this stuff I don't really know about. But then diving into it all, we figured it out. And after the fact, you're like, whoa, like went from nothing, no knowledge to all this knowledge. And then you're just like, what? I can learn anything that I just give the time to do it. And then you build that confidence. And then anything going forward is like, we can handle that because we know that we can learn stuff and that we can put in the time and gain the knowledge and put all the pieces of the puzzle together and keep asking the puzzle questions. Where's this piece? Where's this piece? Where's this piece? And then boom, you paint the picture.
Because your senior year, or maybe it was your junior year, you go to the gym once in December, and then you go to the gym the second time right after. And you weren't somebody that was this big gym bro, but you wanted to get better. And you realize that you have free will and you can do that. The only thing that is inhibiting that is your discipline into getting into there, knowing what you need to do, being aware that you have control over that, and then going out and actually doing it. So would you say that these gratifying, challenging, I wouldn't say decisions, but challenges, these obstacles that you almost yearn for, which is why you've chosen this path. Would you say that started to snowball since those days of just proving to yourself that I can do this? And I'm curious where you're at now. What do you do to yourself for like, I can still do this? I still got this in me.
Yeah, I think that opening step, and it's probably similar for a lot of people, is the self-awareness of like, this is what I should be doing. I know this is good for me. I know this is right. I should do that. And then the discipline and self-accountability when you don't do it, or like to hold yourself accountable to doing whatever you feel like you should be doing. So like I felt like I should be working out and I couldn't get in the gym. And that was a hard thing for me to do. I'd go to the gym in phases. I'd phase in, phase out, and then one day I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna wake up in the morning and go to the gym, and I did that. And then the next day I was like, all right, I'm gonna wake up and do it again. And I didn't like waking up, and especially waking up to go to the gym. But once I did it 2 days in a row, it was more like, wait, I can go and do things, regardless of how I feel in that moment. I might have felt tired. I might have felt sore. I might have felt like there were other things to do. But if I really wanted to do it, I could do it. And that gave me a lot of self-confidence. It was more like I can control the things rather than the things happen to me. And then at that perspective, it's like, all right, if I can go to the gym, I can read a book. If I can read a book, I can learn about this. If I can learn about that, I can start a business. And now here we are.
It's a two-way street. The same way that you can potentially give yourself all this ammunition to say, I can do anything because I just went out and I did that. It can go the other way. I tell myself I'm going to do something and I didn't do it. Therefore, there's some self-doubt now. I can't control my impulses. I'm not that good enough.
Totally.
I can't achieve this.
Totally. I think life is like a string of decisions. So I almost picture it like a stock chart on a 25-year scale. Like if you took a stock chart, every day it changes, right? You can make good decisions, stock goes up a little bit. You can make bad decisions, stock goes down a little bit. But if you pile good decisions after good decisions, you're going to create this string of positive green candle days of your stock. And that's going to pile up over time. And I think if you make those bad decisions, like the stock goes down. And then sometimes you get to that point when it's down, you just get punched in the face. And then your only choice is you're like, all right, like I got to start making good decisions. And I think like I definitely believe in a higher power. And I think that like I call it God or the universe. I think there's a lot of different pathways to it, but I really believe that the higher power adapts to those strings of decisions that you make. So if you make a lot of good decisions in a row, then the universe can be like, all right, like you're on it, like you're doing things, you're getting it done. Like I'm gonna guide you down this path, guide you down that path, so that you can get to where you want to go. And then the same thing if you keep making the wrong decisions, it's gonna be like, all right, like I'm gonna give you a chance here to maybe learn and start going positive direction. And then if you don't, then it's like, all right, I'll give you another warning. I'll give you another. And then eventually that warning turns into something where it's like I feel like a good example is people that want to eat better and then they like get a diagnosis and then they're like, oh, like now I have to eat better because they told me that my stomach has problems. But maybe along the way, it was like, all right, here's a magazine that's telling you how to eat. I'd say like with that string of decision making and then believing that a good decision today will have my stock chart go up in 5 years, having my faith in God and the universe based on all of those decisions I make in the present moment, that really like guides me along.
Yeah, and it's more of a stable stock. It's not just some boom that just
Yeah.
rises to this top. It's a gradual increase with some decrease. It's a non-linear growth.
You can only do so much each day. So some days might just be like a 0.2% positive day. And if you go look, like you can literally compare it to a stock. Like those stocks have days where they go, inch up, inch down, inch up, inch down. And then they have like an earnings report and they go up 20%. It's the same thing. Like you have that breakthrough day where you get that big deal or you get that job you wanted or get into that school you want. And then boom, like your stock just jumps.
If you want to talk about growth and you're a math guy, one of the best math equations I like is if you were to take 1 to the 365th power versus 1.01, getting 1% better to the 365th power, it's like a massive 36 times growth over the year.
Yeah, it's 30. It's literally math.
It's math. And I think that you are a numbers guy where you believe that the universe is not just governed by chance, but it's governed by numbers. You believe in spirituality, but you also believe in numerology. Today being January 22nd, 2026. Today is a 22 day. To no coincidence, we are having our podcast together. What does that mean to you? How did you get down that path? And for the viewers, what is numerology?
Numerology is just like it takes the date, and you can add up all the digits of like a date. So today it'd be 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6. And I guess that would get you, what would that get you? That would, today's a 4 and a 6. So that gets you 15. And then 1 plus 5 is 6. I see this stuff on TikTok. There's a lot of stuff on TikTok. I take in a lot of information. But then you kind of just see it, and then you see what you think about it. And so with numerology, like I kind of just went down the rabbit hole. I was like, all right, like what do all these numbers mean? And then like based on what day you're born determines your numbers, and then those numbers determine like personality traits and things that you excel at and things that you might struggle at, things that you're here to do, but things that you're also here to learn. And once I started taking it myself and then like comparing it to people in my world and doing a bunch of trial and error, I was like, there could be coincidence, but I see a lot of trends here. And as a math guy, I notice the trends. And so, I think when I see a trend that feels accurate or that you can make a case for, um, you start to integrate it.
Let's specify that a little bit. You're a October 3rd, 2001 birthday, which
Yeah.
means that the digits add up and they, what's that term? Where it not,
So I'd be like a 7 life path number, and then my birth date is a 3. So October 3rd, 2001, 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, that's 7. And then my being on October 3rd is the 3. So those numbers have different meaning. Like for example, the 7 is there to gain wisdom. So we already talked about gaining that knowledge. Like that's what I like to do as a 7, makes total sense. But 7s are often in their mind, and they really think things deeply, and sometimes it's hard for them to socialize and to talk because they're very in their mind. They're thinking a lot. But 7s are very smart. The 3 the 3 part of me, which I like cuz it kind of balances out the 7, is the 3 is all about networking and being social. So people born on like the 3rd, 12th, 21st and 30th, or that adds up to 3, they are super social and they are networkers and they succeed in environments with a lot of people. They're people that bring people together. If a 3 like started a company, like they would be like, I'm going to get this person, this person, this person. We're going to come together, and that's how we're going to win. And, so if a 3's like isolated, they might not feel like fulfilled. And so I think it's interesting when you look at it that, are you aligned to those numbers, and how do you feel when you are aligned to those numbers? So if you're a 3, but you're working alone, do you feel like that's best for you, or do you feel like you're missing something? Now, I guess my combo is interesting because the 3 needs to be with people, but the 7 likes to be alone. And so I guess, have to balance that as I
well,
go through life.
you get to be able to thrive in both settings.
I get to be able to thrive in both settings.
When you're
Yeah.
isolated as an only child, that was
Yeah.
accustomed to you. But when there's new people coming into your life, step siblings, school, friends, teams, sports, college, being
Yeah.
able to jump out of your 7 into your 3 is great. And that allows you to really kind of be able to have a diverse range, be able to be a weapon in almost all these certain senses. But there's also challenges that come with that. And that's the whole purpose. I'm curious what governs your soul.
What do you mean by governs your soul?
Well, you think that numbers can govern the universe, that things are not random. And you also claim that you look at it as the universal perspective. You think it's the universe. So you believe in the
Yeah.
spirit, and you believe that what comes out comes back in. And
Yeah.
it's a mirror in that sense. But what governs your soul? Your soul is not just running around some random piece of
Yeah.
land.
I would say what governs the soul is, for me, is it's all about self-awareness. I think you really have to be just so self-aware and not critical or coming up with an excuse or rationalizing stuff. You're really just able to like look in your heart and be like, is this something I want to do? Is this a person I want to spend time with? Yeah, are these people I want to be around? Whatever it might be, you really have to take what's in your heart, and that's how you'll find that intuition. And then living off the intention of following whatever that intuition tells you, and trying to recognize the self-awareness piece is trying to recognize when your mind is like trying to come up with different reasons. Like if you feel like you shouldn't drink alcohol, which I felt a lot, but then your mind's like, oh, but like you're gonna be social, you want to go out, like what if you go on a date and she's drinking, you're not, and then it's like, okay, but am I attuning outward, or am I doing something that I believe in, that I want to do for myself? And I always feel like if you hold to that and you're like, no, this is what feels right for me, I'm going to do it. Like people respect that you follow your intuition, like more so than what people think about the potential judgment. They're like, all right, like you're doing what you believe in. Like that's pretty cool. And, you know, I'll respect you for that. Like I might not do it, but I respect that you are sticking with what you believe. And then holding yourself accountable to that, because I think from that universal perspective, you know, there can be a higher power that's outside of us, and then we use that higher power that's outside of us where they're like the judgment of what we're doing. So we are thinking like, okay, how would this higher power think of what I'm doing right now? Would they say this I was doing a good thing? Would they say, so you're using like what you think their opinion would be, which you could also argue is just being self-aware. And then based on what their opinion is, you're holding yourself accountable to the higher power opinion. But you have to come up with what you think that opinion would be, or I guess you could also follow a religious text.
So you bring up awareness, and it sounds like to enter all these paths, number one step is awareness. Having to be aware of what is going on and the control and agency that you have over something. It sounds like at the beginning, the default is being not even having the awareness of our body, not having the awareness over our mind, and then being able to slightly evolve, going from, oh, I know what my body feels like. I can do things about it. Oh, my mind is something that actually isn't my brain. I actually can control my mind. I can callous my mind in that sense. You start to bring up heart. You start to bring up your soul. You start to bring up awareness. And you tie it back to this infinite higher power that you strive to please in that sense. And almost not just please, but almost act as if the higher power were in you, striving to be as good as God is,
Yeah.
as great as God is.
So I guess like the big question that society asks is like, is that something that's outside of you, or is that something that's actually inside of you? Like,
Can it be both?
can it be both? Probably. But I think it's just it's more so just the relationship. Believing in a higher power, it gives you faith and hope, which is necessary to do anything in the long term, because everything, we started this company with faith and hope. Like that, what we do right now
Starts with hope.
will lead to something. The faith and the hope will lead you to the destination, but on the day to day, you need the self-awareness and the accountability, which comes from relating to that higher power, or from bringing that power within you. It's just that relationship. Like, how do I want to assess myself? Do I want to just look at myself and be my own judge, or maybe I separate it so that I know, like, okay, like that's a different opinion. That's the opinion. That's the standard. And then I'm just going to do me. And then I'm going to be like, okay, how did I do today? Did I meet that opinion? Did I meet that standard that the higher power set? And then with that reflection, you can really piece together how your day went, how your week went, how your month went, and so on.
Yeah.
And decision by decision, you create that decision string, and it keeps your stock going up.
Yeah. It's amazing to be able to trust that intuition. And it sounds like you believe we all have intuition. You just have to listen to it.
Yeah.
And when we have these protectors and we do things to try and make ourselves feel like we don't know it yet, that's why humility is such a strength.
Yeah.
Because the ability to strip down what we think we know to grow into something that we can be and our intuition knows we're capable of, we have to listen to that. But if you just compress it and you shove it up with noise.
Yeah.
How can you listen when there's headphones on and it's blasting music 24/7?
Yeah.
How important is stillness for you?
Stillness is very important. I think based on what you said, like external noise is probably the biggest thing that clouds intuition. You know, what are your parents going to say? Are your parents going to let you do that? Are your parents going to let you do that? What are your friends going to say? You know, what's the society going to say? Whatever thing you come up with on what people will say, like that external noise will be the number one thing that'll like throw you off that intuition. Like maybe that's like a survival thing. Like you're supposed to be with your network, you're supposed to be with your people. But I think in terms of intuition, you got to take all that in, all that external opinion in, but then it's on your intuition to really decipher whatever you hear. You know, someone might say, "Hey, I think you should do this in your business." And you might be like, "All right, I'm working on this every single day." You're not. But then if you just take it in, you're like, "All right, like let me really figure out why they think I should do this on my business." Oh, they think that's important because of this reason and that reason. And then we end up finding out is that first statement that's like, here's an opinion versus like the root of the opinion and the why and why it matters and all those reasons. You really get to understand what they're actually saying. And then you're actually like, oh, like that does make sense. But really figuring out that root um, allows me to mix my intuition with that external opinion. But back to stillness, I think stillness is important to really listen to yourself. I meditate. I meditated a lot more in the past, but being in that quiet space with no stimulation and just allowing your mind to think and wander and or even just practicing like not thinking and just like let me, you know, see the space that I'm in. Let me hear the sounds that are here. And you practice that mind control in those settings, and then you are also being very aware of your thoughts, which goes back to self-awareness. Being aware of your thoughts in that setting, then you can be self-aware as you go through the day. And so much of our world could just be stimulation all day. I wake up, you know, I'm on my phone, I'm doing something, I'm commuting from here to there. I'm working on this, I'm working on that, I'm watching TV, I'm watching sports, I'm, you know, reels before bed. I got a YouTube. Like you could literally structure a whole day around just constantly being stimulated, and
It's not that outlandish. I feel like that's
it's pretty
somewhat the
common. And
default.
then you say like, oh, like oh, my shower thoughts. And as you said a few episodes ago, like the shower thoughts are because you don't have any stimulation. You should give more time to like have those shower thoughts. And having that like white space can really slow things down, can really guide where you're going rather than it just feeling like a constant go mode.
The go mode is productive, but I think we lose track of why we're here sometimes, my opinion. But the production is what's the purpose of the production if it's not to be able to be still? If it's not for us to be grateful of the moments where there are hardships, there are euphoric moments of success, and then there is stillness of peace and nothing. Marcus talked about this a couple episodes ago, and he's like, with how we're transforming with technology, how come our work habits and how much time we allocate to work hasn't changed with the times? And I would say that that's a fascinating way to look at it. Why should we try and work this traditional hours of, and then the traditional amount of years, if it's not to also correlate that with how technology is growing? Why can't we leverage technology like that?
Yeah, that's a super interesting point. And I would say that we probably are heading in that direction. I think it's just a super gradual thing. I think it's one of those things that just takes 5 to 10 years, maybe even longer, 20 years of time. But we're definitely going in that direction. Every piece of innovation ever has been to make things more time and cost efficient. Like when the agricultural revolution occurred, you know, not everyone had to be a farmer, and now food was taken care of, so you can go focus on other things. When cars were invented, you didn't have to spend time walking. You get there quicker. So now you can take care of other things. Like everything is just to make certain things quicker and easier and more cost efficient so that there's more time for other things. And so I think we are going to move in that direction. I think we incorporate a lot in our business. Like we use a lot of different AI softwares. This podcast is on an AI software. Like,
Shout out Riverside.
this isn't iMovie editing. This is, hey, let me see if there's something out there that can make this task super easy for me.
So it's worth my time.
So it's worth it. Now we can do this. You've been doing 4 of these a week and editing them and getting clips from them. You maybe done some editing in the past, but this thing just expedites the process.
It's amazing because I don't have to, I would never have done this if there was the time and the cost was not within my bounds.
Like we built our landing page with AI, and instead of going to a developer and you gotta go back and forth every time you want to change something,
Learning how to do it yourself.
change how it's, take the time to go learn how to code the whole thing. Like somebody made a product where it does the coding part for you and you type into the chat box, and then they design that to make your world more time and cost efficient.
Well, here's another thing that I want to bring up, because as the time and the efficiency increases, so does the abundance of stimulation, accessibility.
Because you have more free time.
Well, not only more free time, but our phones now have connection everywhere we go pretty much. The battery can last practically 2 days. And there is streaming softwares and services all over every TV and screen in your room. TVs are cheaper, they're more abundant, they're clearer. My point being is this: when the daily lifestyle of wake up with stimulation, to go to bed with stimulation, and fill it in between with the amount of noise, what are we supposed to do when work and time becomes lessened, but stimulation becomes easier? Aren't we more enticed to fill that time with what's out there? How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think with all that stimulation, first, things become more efficient. So you have more free time. And with that free time, you're like, all right, what am I going to do with that free time? And the easiest thing to do is the stimulation, because our brain is wired to want the dopamine. And that's the quick dopamine, and, which is fine. Like people do it. I scroll sometimes, like, I think it's pretty normal.
Don't get me wrong. Scrolling's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a feed of quick videos that exactly what I want to see.
Yeah.
But it's easy to stay on there for not just 20 minutes, but for 200 minutes in a couple of days.
Totally. It's easy to get stuck on there. But I think when you have that free time, that's where you got to go back to that self-awareness and accountability. And you're like, all right, like I had, 5 hours of free time today and I watched 3 episodes of this. Did I need to rest and decompress? Was that the move I needed to make today? Then you have to decide, okay, am I rationalizing that, or is that genuinely, was that good for me? Because I've been, working all week. And then you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Like, all right, what could I have done in those 3 hours of time that maybe would have been better for me as a person? Like, did I not work out because I watched the episode? All right, like, and then maybe I should work out and watch 2 episodes.
Itzler, fill your bucket with rocks and then let the sand fall in. The sand is the TV show. I mean, go watch the TV show. Just do the workout before.
The rocks in our world are typically around like work and family and like experiencing life. I would say those are probably the big rocks in most lives. And I think work is definitely a massive rock in everybody's life. And the hard part is like what I think is the challenge is you have to have a plan. You're like, it's okay if your world was just work, but you're like, I'm doing that just work now so that I can do this later, because I'm mapping it out.
Yeah, there's intention behind what you're doing.
You want to have the intention.
You're not just doing it to survive. Maybe it is to survive, but what's the purpose of doing something if there isn't a greater purpose of growth? It's the fisherman analogy. Have you heard of it with the businessman and the fisherman?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
where it's just a businessman sees a fisherman in a small town go out and catch fish. He catches like 3 fish. He comes in and the businessman's like, wow, you could have, that's amazing. You could really make a business out of this. And the man's like, oh, like, well, what would you do in order to make this? Like, well, I'd hire all these other fishermen. I'd go out and I'd have them catch it all day. And then you can scale this up over 25 to 30 years so that after that, you can, live your days in a small village, go catch 3 or 4 fish and spend time with your family.
Do the same thing.
And he's like, I'm doing that now. And I think that it's this funny, like chasing your tail act of, you don't want to get into the loop of, I'm just doing this because I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I like what I'm doing.
I want to.
I love what I'm doing.
Totally.
And I want to ask you, how important is it to not just chase your tail, but to do something in this pursuit of this life with the intention that you love versus that you're told?
Definitely. I think that, that analogy, I love that story because it really highlights when there's that result-based mindset and then like that what's in the end mindset. And sometimes it's really challenging because you're like, all right, like I want to, launch the app. Then I want to get the advertisers on. And then I want to grow the business. And then I want to raise another round. And then, you have all these goals of like what's in the end or what life will look like at a certain point in time. But I think what makes that one time great in the future, that time when the company is successful, is when you are here or when you're like a year ago and we don't even have our development started yet. And we're like, all right, like, we're going to, make this app and who knows what's going to happen. And we're going to take it day by day. Like you need all of those parts of the journey, as we said in the beginning, like those challenges that get you going, those puzzles, and you're figuring out each one. And then you look back and you're like, wow, like, we did that over the last 6 months. Like that's crazy. Like, where are we going to be 6 months from now? And it definitely something I try to do because I can easily get caught up in what's to come or where we get at a certain point in time. But I try to really consciously remind myself of enjoying this present experience and taking it all in because if we get to that point, if we sold the company and we, did what was successful, then you already have it. There isn't that time like where you're like, oh, like we got to get it off the ground. We just launched. We got to get product market fit. You don't get that sweat anymore. So really just like enjoying the sweat, I think is a gambling reference, but I think it's
I like to gamble though.
I do too. I think it's a good analogy. Like you're not playing blackjack like just to walk out of the casino with $100. Like you're doing it to sweat out each hand because it's fun to be like, am I going to win? Am I going to lose? What's this hand going to be like? What's that hand going to be like? To go to our other analogy with the stock market, you're sweating out each day. What's today going to look like? What's tomorrow going to look like? How's our chart looking? And you're just really being in the journey. Like life is just a collection of what's your past? Like, no one knows what happened, but you remember stuff.
It's your legacy.
And it's your memories. And those memories are the currency of life. And so when you build up those memories, those are things from the journey. Those aren't destinations. If you're too focused on destination, you're not going to enjoy the journey and you're going to feel like time's flying by and that you're going to feel stressed and anxious because you're not where you feel like you need to be. And then you have that checklist of if I'm here, then I'm good. But really trying to just pull yourself out of that self-awareness and then be like, no, like I'm here right now. Our apps launched 3 to 4 months ago. We went through a lot of development updates. We're working on our sales pitch. We're working on getting advertisers. We got a whole bunch of updates coming. We're moving to Miami next week for 3 months. Like this is the spot to be. Yeah. I'll be successful later. That'll be great. I'm going to have great experience from that. There's going to be a lot of things unlocked, things that are easier, but it's also going to be a lot more challenges. The levels of life are arguably harder as you go on, but they just bring new benefits and challenges. You might unlock certain perks, but you're going to have to face certain challenges.
I'm going to disagree with you there because there were decisions that you and I had to make in college and in high school that had nowhere near the magnitude that decisions we make on the daily.
Saying more or less than.
I'm saying it felt the same. I'm saying maybe it felt more than. And you claim that you'll be successful later. And I don't think you actually agree with that. I think that you'd say you're successful now. Because if I were to ask you if you had to hang it up today and the life was done and your career is over, and you would say, I was or I wasn't successful, I think you'd say you were. This definition of success that society gives to you based upon tangible reward versus what you give yourself. This is what we talked about. You mentioned extrinsic opinion when you talked about stillness, and you bring up how you'll be successful when it happens. Do you believe you can pursue success, pursue happiness? Or do you think that in order to pursue it, it's now?
So, yeah, that's a good question. And I'm glad that you noticed that, because I think there's a key separation, right? There's a personal success definition and a personal happiness definition. And then there's a perceived success definition. And a lot of the times the perceived success definition revolves around money and numbers. And, but it's a business. And so businesses take time to grow. We launched 3 months ago. We're working on bringing in our advertisers. If we were trying to sell our business, someone might perceive and be like, oh, like, we want it to be here. But we know that we're on the path. And that's where personal success comes in. Personal success is my stock going up? Is my string of decisions how I want it to be? And then with personal success, it'll lead to perceived success. And, perceived success is definitely a challenging thing because people are always trying to, make their mark on society and fit into where they want to fit in or be where they want to be. But, perceived success is one thing. And that's what I was referring to with like success down the line. But personal success, I believe that I have. And that everything I've done to this point has been a big success. And I'm very proud and happy of everything that I'm doing to this point. And I want to continue doing it because I love just seeing, how put your mind to it. We come to work every day. We work on ourselves. We work on our company. We work on our lives. How far can we go? Let's see what happens.
The idea of perceived success and personal success isn't differentiated in society. It's just the word success. Because people think success is perceived success.
Yeah.
And they believe that they'll feel personal success once perceived success.
Perceived success. Yeah.
So they put perceived success first. That's their rock in the bucket. And the sand is personal success.
Yeah.
When in reality, there is no such thing as perceived success. That's my case. Because you can go anywhere in the world and they will have different types of people looking at what you're doing and what you've done, and they will give you different answers, which means that perceived success is subjective and your personal success must remain objective, personally.
Very true.
And so I hear what you're saying, and I think that it's honestly a matrix way of looking at it, which is just a way of saying that it's societally agreed upon. It's what we were raised to think.
Yeah.
It's Austin Greaser, for example, a golfer who has succeeded at every level and is getting to professional level and is trying to get over the hump there. In his personal success, he feels potentially right now that it's matched with his perceived success. I'm not good enough because I'm not at the PGA Tour yet, where people think I should have been on my path. Who are these people? These are the same people that can't even go to the course.
And it's a great point. It's made up.
Yeah.
Because some people will say one thing, that's their perception of your success. And they might say one thing super positive and someone might say one thing super negative.
So you bring up perceived success, and I understand where you're coming from. I'm not ignorant here. I'm pushing back.
Yeah.
And I get it. The perceived success also comes with solving money problems and being able to live a life of financial freedom where you have your time. And I'm not saying it because you don't have the personal success. I'm just saying that from the way I perceive you and the way I know you go about your day, you don't care about perceived success. You haven't
No.
worried about perceived success. But when we begin to, that's when we start to mix the oil and water that is personal and perceived. And I think that's a dangerous and potent potion that we don't want to be putting into our bodies.
Yeah. Look, I think as you hit different levels and you do different things, like that's definitely one of the challenges. Like you see it all the time. Like an athlete gets a ton of money, they get that big contract, and now they don't practice as hard because they're not focused on that foundation of what their personal success is. Like, all right, like I got that perceived success, like I'm chilling.
It's interesting because that's a society problem when you don't have that self-awareness that we've been talking about for the past 45 minutes. You don't know the difference between the two. And I've never really used the terms personal and perceived success. We kind of just brought it up now,
Yeah.
but we've understood that's there. We were just deciphering it. And I want to ask you a question on how you go about your days in the next year versus when you look back on the past 2 years. Today, you make the same amount of money in Aditt as you do because nothing is liquid. You're not getting a paycheck. You don't work a W-2 as you did when you were in college, for instance. But there is something different about your day to day. There's a level of agency that you have with your tasks. There's a standard that you hold yourself. And there's also somebody, a co-founder, that does the same. When it comes to leadership and it comes to a team, how important is it for you and your co-founder, me, to have an aligned version of personal success versus perceived success?
Great question. I would say that the alignment on personal success is how we started. Our skills are different, which is great because you need that. We wouldn't want the same skills. And we look at a lot of different challenges with different perspectives, which is great because then we're able to work in these two sides and come to that common ground. But we're super aligned on personal success, what we want in our life, how we want to live our life each day. And that allows us to structure our daily schedule, our company around having the alignment in that vision is super important. It's the same thing with a marriage. Business partnership, no difference in a marriage. You got to have that alignment. Things might things might get bumpy here or there. You got to come together, you work on them, you talk about things, you stay open, you make communication the priority. You're working on a common goal. We're on the same team. That Knowing that we're on the same team, it just keeps us aligned because then anything that comes our way, we can approach it. We know that we want to end up in the same spot, and that if we disagree on something, figure it out so that we're realigned.
Stefan in episode 4 talked about collaboration and how important that is with his co-founders and the ability to be an individual and to say, if all these tasks were put on me, I could get this done. But the fact that we're able to split these tasks, you go
Yeah,
about the accounting, and I'll take the liberty of working on something like this that allows us to really work into our strengths. It's like not touching your legs and you're only doing upper body, but it's the fact that you're still able to have somebody else who has the knowledge bestowed to go
yeah,
through that process.
definitely.
I think that's a massive deal.
And I think with collaboration, like what I think we do really well is it's not necessarily like, oh, we need to work on the same thing. It's not like we need to both be in the same Google Doc working on the same thing.
Well, at the beginning, it
At the
felt like
beginning,
we
we had,
needed to
yeah,
do that
felt like we
because
needed to.
we also didn't really know what we were doing.
Sure, but we're learning.
But that's a good thing.
But I think where collaboration is super important is in the brainstorm. And so something Drew and I do is we do a ton of brainstorming.
As you see, I can write a
We
lot.
just open up a notebook and we talk about a certain topic. And so nothing that we execute on hasn't been brainstormed. So we like it's collaboration always in the brainstorming and the strategy and what move to do next, because that's where we'll really work through whatever thoughts we have. And then in terms of execution, just either both of us step up and do certain things that we feel we'll be better at, and we execute in that way. And then when there's room for collaboration in the execution, we pop in and help out.
I really look at our business partnership as something that can be viewed as so logical and numerical, but also as something that can be so spiritual, because there's two sides of the coin there. There's systems that we've built to constantly raise our stock over time, to where as long as you just keep moving up and you stay in the game, stock will just continue to rise. Maybe someday the business stock will shoots up. Well, it will, but that's not the point. But from a spiritual perspective, it's faith and belief and understanding in a goal that isn't there, in building something that isn't real yet. It changes the way you look at things, because you think that an idea isn't real. But when you prove to yourself that when I have an idea that I can go to the gym back-to-back days, that I can read this whole book in one sitting, that I can go out and run a half marathon because I can. Now, all of a sudden, ideas are no different than something that is tangible, like this mug,
Totally.
because you know you're going to get there.
Some of those things you could do in a day, and so you can really see that instant gratification. But it starts with that hope and that faith. It starts with that belief that what you're doing now will lead to whatever it leads to later. Things don't happen in a day often. So it takes time. Sometimes it takes years. I would say that everything in life, if you really want to get that edge, like, it starts with something that you believe in before other people do, especially in the stock market. You got to believe that the stock's going to go up before all the other people do. So that you buy at the lowest price, and then they come in and jack it up.
And that allows you to not gamble more, but to have the faith in something that isn't existing yet from a perceived societal perspective. And that gives you a massive strength, a huge leg up.
Yeah. And then going back to alignment, like, I believe in that. You believe in that also. And so we believe in that. And then now we're aligned on the same journey, working on the same stuff. We both have faith. We both have belief. We both have self-awareness. We both hold ourselves accountable each day, and we hold each other accountable, especially when we're working in person, which is one of the biggest benefits. We know that that's going to lead to where we are now. What we've been doing leads to now, and what we're going to do today leads to tomorrow. And having that alignment just allows us to have this elevated emotion through the process, where we get to celebrate the wins together. We get to figure out the challenges together, and we're not alone. We get to experience that same emotion throughout what can be a very challenging process. I mean, we started at it about 2 years ago, and that's two years of work that we've done every single day. Like, that takes constant work every single day, and that takes a lot of faith, a lot of belief.
And I'll add this, because you bring up this example of marriage with a business partnership, but it's also a relationship that you have to have with the company and the idea, where at the very, very beginning, their relationships are, I wouldn't say they're unstable, but they don't have the foundation. It's not built in yet. So when on month one versus on year one, you have something that will delay a week. One extra week of 4 from when there's only 4 weeks is a massive chunk of time compared to when there's been 52 weeks and you add an extra week. Because at the beginning, I really struggled with having to deal with delays and when things are outside of my control, because we talk about how we got on this path, and it was realizing that we have agency over our life.
Control.
And when I lost that control, when things weren't happening the way that I thought they could be and at the speed that it should be, and we wanted to move to Miami, not last October, but the October before that. And now we're moving in a week and a half. And that has been an extra pretty much year and a half since we wanted to move in there. That was a tough pill for me to swallow. Every day when you thought you were going to be in Miami and you were doing something, and instead you're in your parents' house. I love my parents. I love my home there, but it's freezing and I'm not working with you and we're working at home. there's a ton of discipline and there's a ton of humbling experiences that come with that. And so I more so bring this up as a statement on time and how important that is to nurture. But as you've gone through this process, you talk about 2 years. What is your goal in this next year? Because you've been able to really formalize these opinions on the process. You've been able to have these standards that you hold yourself to and hold me to on the daily. What does a successful next 3 months look like, 6 months, and then 12?
Yeah. I think the thing with time, especially in the beginning, is that we had that expectation and we felt that, oh, could it be this amount of time? Could it be that? But we really didn't know. And I think everybody always will underestimate the amount of time it'll take to do something. Like, oh, like if I, do this, and that, like if I practice this much, like I'll get better at this sport. And then you do it and you're like, all right, like I'm not where I thought I'd be. I put in all that time. But how, like maybe we're not supposed to determine how much time it will take. But I think what we really worked on well is instead of having expectation of time, we come back to, am I doing what I should be doing today? Am I getting what I should be getting done today? Am I getting what I can get done today? And you're focused on that one day stock jump price, and you're just focused on having that positive day each day, and knowing that if on January 22nd, from when you wake up to when you go to bed, that you're putting in your maximum effort and that's going to lead to it, then you're going to give it the amount of time that it should take. And that was definitely one of the biggest things we've learned. I think with moving forward, it's a difficult thing to say, like, in this amount of time we'll be here and that amount of time we'll be there. But when you look back on the time that it took, we realized, oh, this needed this much time. We needed to really give it time to scout what developers to use. We need to give the design process time so that we really had a good looking product. We need to give the development process time so that we could test everything and ensure that it's all good and there's no bugs and all that. And then we needed to launch it and give that time to get feedback. And then we need to give it time to do development again. And then we need to give time to fix all these new things we've discovered. You look back and you give it time. And so I guess moving forward, just launched, we did like a lot of testing. And then we went into a big development update. We're coming out of that development update now, and we're looking to make the platform functional on the advertiser side and the user side and really grow up both sides of the two-sided marketplace. And the goal is to have product market fit and to start seeing the company generate revenue. And then we figure out where to go from there. Right now we're still pre-revenue, but all we can do on the day to day is giving everything the time it needs. And are we putting in our best effort? And then over time, it'll just take the time that the process needs. But we're showing up every day. We're brainstorming. We're being self-aware of the position on the chessboard. We're solving all the puzzles, and we move a little bit forward. And the stock ticks up, ticks up, ticks up. And then over a long period of time, when we look back a year ago, we're like, wow, we've come so far. In the day-to-day, sometimes it feels like some of the days are the same. When you zoom out, you really notice that.
Perspective and time are everything, especially on this plane that we live on right now,
Yeah.
where it's just unbelievable that this dimension, we have the time to be able to not jump forward or jump back, but have control. It's weird, but when you realize that you only have the present, that really the future and the past don't exist. But when you bring up memories on how that's the currency of life, you do have autonomy over what your memories have on you. When I look back at when COVID happened and my baseball season got canceled, I was a victim to the world. I said that this is how me? Why me? This is horrible. This is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm so grateful for that moment because of where I am today.
Yeah.
And for the future, there's no different. It's not that I don't think that I can control the future. It's not that I can actually change what's going to happen. It's that I have control over now.
Yeah.
I know how to reverse engineer myself to where I want to go.
That's a massive skill because you're changing the emotional charge of a memory. So something can happen and you can feel a lot of pain from it, and you're going to feel that in the moment. But then like you look back on it and you're like, okay, like yeah, this had to happen. It happened for this and that. You know, I know that was super hard for me. Like I learned a lot through that. I'm gonna like give my old self compassion, and I'm gonna pretend like I'm telling my old self, hey, like, you know, this happening right now because this is gonna happen to you later. And it's okay. And then you're like rewiring that. And that's a great thing that you do.
All right, we're back at it. Slight technical difficulty. The computer died. I don't think we're used to recording over an hour. However, we're going to proceed on here. Do you remember what we were talking about? Or shall we ask the final question?
Let's just I don't quite remember, so let's just move into the final question.
All right, so the final question I'm going to give to you as a statement. LeBron is the GOAT. Why are you laughing?
Just not the case. Just not the case. As we all know, or you should know, Michael Jordan is the GOAT. Michael Jordan, as your shirt knows, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Show the shirt.
It's a GOAT chewing on a Michael Jordan jersey because he's the GOAT. Shout out, Julia. Thanks for buying this. I know you're listening.
So, I mean, this GOAT debate is something that we've been passionate on for years. You know, when we were sophomores in college, living in our frat house, the Jordan LeBron debate was a hot topic. It caused heated arguments. We were yelling about it all the time. But honestly, the Jordan LeBron debate, that was probably the first thing that really brought us close because we aligned on this argument so much, because this argument says so much about how we want to go about life. And we were talking about alignment. We're talking about having that same vision on how to go about things. And this whole Jordan LeBron argument really started that. We saw Michael Jordan as this player who would win regardless of the circumstances. He would find a way. If he was losing to the Pistons 3 years in a row, he'd go back to the drawing board and he'd be like, I need to work out every day all summer and build all this muscle so I can take on all of their hard fouling. He wanted to figure it out, and he didn't win for 7 years, but once he did win, he didn't stop. He won every full season after that with the Bulls. Oh, but the Wizards. Okay. Played at 82 games at 39. That's some longevity if I've heard some. But Michael Jordan, to me, like that is greatness. Is this is my path. I'm gonna work towards this. These are my goals, and I'm gonna figure out how to do it no matter what. I can face this team, that team. There's no excuse. And that's something that we argued it so much that we're like, oh, if this is what greatness is, like we need to embody it. And then we were like, all right, how do we embody it? Let's start trying to do these things that Jordan does.
We
And
studied.
we studied it. We brought it into our own world. And it's a very process-based mindset. It's a very win at all costs mindset. And that to me is greatness. I think if you're arguing for LeBron, you have to justify the losses. You're arguing that his natural ability is
His tools,
as seafood say, his tools are what makes him great, and that he's been there. And look, LeBron's great. Don't get me wrong. Like he is a phenomenal player, but he's just not the GOAT. When you look at LeBron, it creates that limiting belief mindset of I need certain teammates, I need certain opponents,
I need certain abilities.
I need certain abilities in order to win. Like, so you can't be the greatest unless you're born with like the most like freak basketball body of all time and skill set. Then it's like how are you going to believe in yourself to do something if you're like I don't have the tools, versus like no, here are my tools and here's what I want to do. I'm going to take my tools and show up every day, hold myself accountable, be aware of my strengths and weaknesses so I know exactly what I need to work on and get better every single day. And then I'm going to get the maximum out of whatever my tools are. And I'm just going to see what that is because I want to see how far I can go with my tools. And I love every step of the way.
The reason why I love the Jordan argument is because of that fact alone of I don't need to be born with it. As long as I can get there, I can become aware of it and I can put action towards it. It gives me control and agency over my life to be great.
Yeah.
And
it sets you up.
People make the arguments that they'll say against Jordan, well, he had the greatest coach. Well, they drafted Pippen. And you need to take into account that life and God gives you the pieces to succeed if you are doing the right thing. And there's no coincidence that Jordan, when he was ready to win, he had Pippen next to him. He had Phil Jackson running the team. And then he has a guy like Horace Grant down low. People don't realize about the Bulls' first dynasty, the first three, and then the second, is the only person that remained constant was Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
Everybody else was different there. You can make a case about Scottie Pippen. Pippen's great. You need Pippen. But you can't go out and go force that. You can't go out and go create that.
Yeah.
And
he let it come to him. Michael showed up all through the 80s, and he was just like, I'm going to show up, give it 100% every day. And then that type of effort attracted Scottie Pippen into his realm and attracted Phil Jackson. Like, he was not seeking it. He was doing what he could control
to attract it. I believe that.
Versus forcing it.
This is a subjective argument at the end of the day. There's a ton of people out there, majority of the new generation are going to say that LeBron's the GOAT. And I never got to see Jordan play in any games. Neither did you. We had The Last Dance, and people will say, wait till LeBron James's documentary comes out.
Yeah,
and
lose, win, lose.
Yeah, 4 for 10 in the finals. He's got 4.5 rings because of that, like
the bubble,
the cup,
or the
NBA
cup. All right.
The thing that Stefan brought up on episode 4, because he said Jokic, both in a serious and unserious manner, but he said, Jordan's just got a great story. I'll give him that. Isn't that all we have? Isn't the story what sports are, or is it stats? Because
the story, the great story is nonfiction. Like, a movie's a great story, but he made the story through life and through competition. And I think if you look at other sports like Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, like, these are guys that have that same type of mindset towards their craft as Jordan. And that's a mindset that I want to replicate. It's a mindset you want to replicate. It's a mindset that we want to instill in our company.
And offspring.
Yeah. And that's how we want to live. That's how we want to go about it. And that's why Michael Jordan is my GOAT.
I agree with you. Stern, you're a treat to have on. Perhaps you come on again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I will come on again. Next time, I'll be interviewing you so that you guys can get to know your host a little bit better.
Amazing. We'll be in the Brickell apartment when that happens. So we've been having some dynamic scenes here. This is the first time we're doing something like this. So the video quality is not great. I don't have a camera. We're using my MacBook. It literally died on us at hour 1. However, we're going to have a more consistent studio. We got our decor here. We've upgraded with the unicorn and a Have a Day hat. Not a sponsor, wish it was, but this was amazing. Like usual, we have a full sheet of notes from today on Stern. This conversation had probably about 7 or 8 leading questions, but they really just organically ebbed and they flowed.
Yeah.
And it was a great conversation. An hour 20 felt like nothing. I hope it felt like that for you guys as well. And I hope that you guys were able to learn a little bit, not just about who Alec is, but a little bit about what the soul of Aditt looks like. I am the soul. Cue the music. We crashed. Stern, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm Drew Welcome, signing off. Peace.